Devon, what's happening, brother?
What is good?
Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
We're so pumped to have you on, man. We were saying that with a lot of our guests, we like to just give the audience a little overview of how we met.
Yeah.
So we first met probably about a month ago at that weekend at Cedar Trunk Ranch, which is your and Jimmy DeChico's ranch.
Yep.
And you had posted about it on your Instagram story because you were doing a whole entrepreneurs weekend and networking event.
Yep.
And there was a running session. So we went to the Saturday morning run.
Yep.
Dude, I think you had us on like 4 super coffees, energy drink, Promix, bone marrow, liver. We were absolutely dialed.
Just locked
I
in.
could see through a keyhole.
Literally. And it was supposed to be a little fun run. And you and Jimmy are freaking, what were you guys cooking, like 7-minute miles? Like you were freaking hammering that thing.
At the beginning, we're like, all right, guys, it's just supposed to be fun. Don't get hurt. And then we just took off and we were like, we cannot lose this. We have to win this.
Yeah, you guys aren't competitive at all, I'm sure.
Yeah. And like, I don't know where he went. I was running and I was just in the zone and Natasha's like, slow down. And I'm like, I'm not slowing down. No. And like on part of the ranch, there's that pretty big decline. Remember that hill?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I just sprint down it. And that's when I just separated. And then Jimmy caught up somehow. Jimmy's a savage, by the way. Jimmy's DeChico is like, he's a proper savage, whether that's running, football, swimming, basketball. Like it's hard to find people that you can compete with. I've played almost every sport my whole life and done decently well, but like he's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal athlete. And then snowboarding, the guy's a savage. I mean, last time we went snowboarding in Whistler, we were up there and we had this clocker on our phone to see how fast we would go. And I'm hitting like 58 miles an hour on the snowboard and he comes around the corner at 62 miles an hour.
Holy shit.
I'm like, what the frick is going on?
Dude, all 3 of those brothers are studs, man.
Yeah, studs.
That's what happens when you grow up with brothers that are close in age. You
Yeah.
just compete like hell.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I have 4 sisters, so
I think we met one of them.
yeah, one of them
At the
Ashley.
event.
Dude,
Yeah.
all my sisters though, savages.
Really?
All the most independent, badass chicks. My older sister, I'm 30, she's 32. She's at my farm in Jersey right now, literally putting in posts in the ground, cementing them, putting like chicken wire on. I have 100 chickens up there. She's getting the whole thing ready. Solo, just
Stud.
ripping it. Yeah.
Different breed.
Different breed. Yeah.
Yeah, but man, that ranch, Cedar Trunk that you guys have built is, we walked away just being so impressed. Like, I mean, the property is gorgeous, but then just the events and the connections that you're facilitating, because we didn't even know that whole weekend was going on. And I mean, we probably met like 15 incredible people. Ryan from Cold Plunge.
Yep.
Dude, we'd love to just hear the story about how that kind of came to be, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, that day you guys came, that was an all-day running event, which is cool, which is a great company we'll get into later on. Jesse, myself, Todd, Amanda, a couple people started this company, and that's just to build the biggest and funnest running community in the world. And so we're going to do that. We're about a couple months in, and we're just going to have these really cool community events. So that's a big part of Cedar Trunk Ranch. We're going to use it to, run and cold plunge and sauna and just come about. But the whole ranch came about. I was actually looking for a ranch. I grew up on a farm in New Hampshire, Idaho and New Hampshire. I was born in Idaho, moved across country when I was maybe like 7. We had a full farm out there, cow named Coco, horses, peacocks.
You're milking cows, right?
Milking cows, Dobermans, Rottweilers. Like we had a lot of animals growing up. And so we moved them all from Idaho to New Hampshire. I grew up in New Hampshire till I was about 16. Yeah, milking cows. My mom was a horse trainer and arm wrestler, and my father was a professional weightlifter. My grandfather was a professional weightlifter. So I grew up very farm, health-oriented, no junk food. Like before a Whole Foods was even a thing, we would be going to the health food store and that's all we went to. So long and the short, as I moved to New York City, went to college and whatnot, I was in New York and Hoboken and Jersey for 8 years or so. And I always wanted to get back to the farm life. And so I was like, man, where could I buy a farm, in the United States? And so I actually went out to Colorado. And so I was out, I want to say I was out towards like Boulder area, and I'm at this one property, 40 acres. I was like, this could be it. There wasn't too many trees. It was like very vast. And I'm leaving with the real estate agent. And all of a sudden I get in the car, the real estate agent's pulling out, I'm pulling out behind him, and a freaking mountain lion jumped on my car. Jumped on the rental car and jumped off. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now?
You're like, that's a no for me.
100% no. I have 3 dogs and I'm just thinking, man, like, I don't know if this is good for them. I couldn't do that. Coincidentally, Jimmy hit me up and he's like, hey man, I think I found us a ranch, come out to Texas. So I came down to Austin. We walked the property and 30 days later we had it closed and we owned this, 60-acre ranch in, Cedar Park, Leander, Texas, 25 minutes outside of downtown Austin. And that was the first time I've ever been to Austin. I've never been. And so I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know it was, United States fastest growing city. I was just looking for a farm. I was looking for somewhere to just have some fun and bring some good people together. And from then on, Jimmy and I just brainstormed. Jimmy's a super, super creative guy. And so, him and I being able to get on phone calls multiple times a day and just, what do we want to do with this place? We came down to building what we did growing up. Let's play football. Let's play basketball. Let's run. Let's have a pool. We love to sauna and cold plunge. Let's do that. Let's throw a volleyball court on here and let's do it in the most economical way. So we went down the direction of building this big barn dominium. It's about an 8,000 square foot barn dominium, and the middle of the house is a pickleball court, and a basketball court. So that's kind of how it came about. We were going to use it for friends and family. I threw my 30th birthday party on it a couple of years ago, and we then saw, wow, between Jimmy's friends that came, my friends that came, a lot of founders, a lot of go-getters, a lot of good, positive vibe people. The common denominator was people just wanted to give, people just wanted to help. And so after we saw that, we were like, why don't we try to throw a weekend here, like an event? And that's what we did. So we threw the first one back in September and it went better than expected for sure. I brought in my buddy Darren Conway, who actually hired me out of college. I was running nightclubs with him in New York at the time. And I brought him to help me run the event, and, our team at Creator & Co. and the DML Group, and they all came out and just dominated. And, we had a 12-person band and paintball and, basketball and tournaments and, workouts and, unbelievable speakers and just founders. And it was just like it's a good place to meet people, but not do it in a douchey, hey, let's go to a happy hour for 2 hours, get drunk and force this networking. And, let me give you my business card. It's like, yo, let's go jump in the cold plunge and, oh shit, what do you do for a living? Or, hey, what charity or whatever it is. It just starts conversation better than, the normal networking that we all grew up doing.
Yeah, totally.
So it just, I don't know, it just kind of came about and now we're just ripping.
That weekend was such a good reminder for me of the people you surround yourself with is kind of just the bottom line of getting you where you want to be in life. And it also just makes life so much better. The people that were there were so impressive. And they had intentionally put themselves in that position. They paid money to be there. And then they have this amazing weekend where, they're doing fun activities, but they're doing fun activities with cool people who are founding companies and, doing just great things with their lives. So it was just a great reminder of that key point, which is surround yourself with the right people.
You got to, man. And I think when I've noticed, and especially in the last 5 years, meeting people, when I ran nightclubs in New York, New Jersey, and in that area, and I was in that scene, you're naturally going to network with people, right? People are coming out, you have to get their number, they want to book a table, you talk with them, great, you have a drink, cool. But what I've seen the best relationships really form is when I go climb fucking mountains with people. And when I go and do hard shit and do hard workouts or jump in a cold plunge or do a long sauna session with Jesse Itzler and we have some deep conversations, or, it builds this bond that you can't compete with any type of networking. It's like, damn, I went through hard shit with this person. I trust this person, they got my back. And that I think is overlooked. It's overlooked quite a bit. All you have to do is put yourself in hard positions with good people and you can create some serious good bonds. And when you bring those type of people together to a ranch like we have, people are enticed more to do those type of things. They have the recipe at their fingertips. So
yeah, we just had, do you know Eric Hinman?
I do.
Yeah. So we went out to Denver 2 days ago to do a live episode with him out at his spot out there. And very similar to you, where it's he's basically curated this perfect environment where it's beautiful house, saunas, cold plunges, CrossFit setup, ergs, rowers, all that stuff. And he has these open sessions from like 4 to 6 where he just invites a bunch of his friends and interesting people into the sauna. And he kind of is like creating serendipity through that.
Yeah.
And it seems like guys like him, guys like you, Jesse, it's like instead of just doing happy hours or something, why don't we like put ourselves in these healthy environments where we can kind of create that serendipity, like
100%.
like that Saturday event. Little coffee, little sweat, you're bumping into people, you're getting in the cold plunge.
Yeah.
Dude, we met Ryan that founded the cold plunge just in his sauna. And we had like an hour-long conversation, and now we're probably going to get to work with them, and we had them on the show.
Yep.
But dude, that all came from the event and the community that you're fostering. It's so cool.
Yeah, man. Ryan and Michael, the founders of Cold Plunge, are amazing guys. I mean, the growth that they've had in their company and what they've been able to give back to humans, not just, all right, they have an unbelievable story from their data and their finances. That's great, right? But the people and the lives that they're changing from a straight up anxiety standpoint, depression, PTSD, people are literally changing by getting into their units. Sarah Blakely says this all the time. Sell what you're fixing. Sell what you're fixing. You know, and that's what they're doing. They're selling what they're fixing. They're not selling the plunge. They're selling fixing anxiety and PTSD and depression. That's what they're selling right now. And I think that's why they've been able to come across as so authentic and real and be able to, I don't know, just expand so quickly because they're selling what they're fixing. You know, they're fixing in humans. And I don't know, I think it's remarkable when people come out with products, especially in the health and wellness world. It's not always just about, you know, the ingredients or I don't know, like how you're putting this company together, or how much money you've raised. It's like, what are you fixing? Like, what are you honestly fixing in the community or with a human, you know? And
Definitely.
I know, emphasizing on it, Ryan and Michael do it phenomenally.
Yeah, and we want to get into all that, your investing philosophy, the brands you work with, but I think it would be really cool for the listener.
Yeah,
dude, how the hell did you go from bartending to investing and building a bunch of these brands and companies? Like, it's an incredible story.
Thanks. Well, I mean, it definitely goes back to probably military academy. I
Like
got
in high school.
That was high school, junior and senior year. I repeated my junior year, so I actually did 5 years in high school. Not a lot of people know this, but I went to 5 different high schools growing up. My dad passed away. My parents were going through a divorce. I was just bouncing around, and it was tough, but like it definitely opened my mind into kind of what the world is. I grew up in a very small town in New Hampshire, 1,500 people. You know, the closest Target was like 2 hours away. So I wasn't too cultured per se, but once I started to go to these different high schools and was able to go to this military academy, it helped out. And from then on, I went to college, went to Long Island University, got a scholarship there to play football, baseball, academics. And I had no money. I was totally broke. You know, I didn't have any, support from family or anything. I just had to figure it out. And I remember I had this little green cell phone, and I was like, how am I going to pay for this $50 cell phone each month? And so I remember I was out at a bar one night, maybe like $20 to my name, and I was just having a good time. I wasn't really focused on money. I was just like, all right, let's have a good time tonight. Just got out of military academy. We're, underage drinking, and we're just having a fun time. And the bar owner hit me up the next day on Facebook, and he was like, hey, I need you to come into the bar. And my first thought is, shoot, I'm, a freshman at the time. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. I'm going to get kicked out of this place, banned. And he's like, hey man, like, you were really fun last night. Do you want to help promote this bar and these clubs I own? And I said, I don't even know what that means, man. Like, what is a promoter? And so I started promoting. And so long and the short, he said, hey, I'll give you $5 every person you bring into the bar.
Nice.
And I was playing football at the time. It was football season. I was like, if I bring 50 people in, that's like $250. I would definitely pay for my cell phone, and I would be okay. That $250 in college, you're rich, right? And so that weekend, I remember I brought in about 50 people, some sorority girls, some football players, some lacrosse players. The next weekend, though, is when it kicked off, and there was like 500, 600, 700 people that all said Devon at the door. And that just when it started, I was like, whoa, I'm definitely onto something. And then they were like, hey, do you want to promote and bartend? And I was like, cool. So I can make even more money and, pay for more things and, help more people out. Now, my sense of making money isn't necessarily just for myself. It's like to help people around me. So I was taking all the money and paying for all my friends' food and drinks, and like, you know, we'd go out to big dinners afterwards, and you know, I was kind of using it to just help others and like bring in, I don't know, I didn't really know what community was at that point, but I guess that's what it was. And so I was just trying to make more money to help others out. And so that went on for a couple of years, and I was at a point then where the athletic director came up to me and said, "Hey man, like, you know, I was kind of an ultimatum. I'm a scholarship athlete, but I'm getting all these athletes, you know, they're all partying and, you know, probably not supposed to be." And so I had to make a decision of where I wanted to go with my life. And I remember looking at some of the kids in college that graduated, and it's not that they weren't doing anything but with their life, but they weren't doing things I wanted to do for sure. And I was like, why am I in college right now? You know, like, what's the point? And so I ended up dropping out. I dropped out when I was junior. I went into this interview with this guy, Darren Conway, who actually ran the nightclub event, or ran the weekend event. And he basically told me, he's like, "Hey man, you know, I'm not going to make you a bartender here. I know you're in here for a bartending position. I want to make you a manager." And I'm like, whoa, this is like my big break. I remember leaving that meeting and I was ecstatic. I think I was screaming in the car. I'm like, "Oh my God, I made it. This is insane. I'm a manager at the W Hotel."
Like 20 years old.
I was literally 20 years old. I didn't even hit 21. I'm like, "Oh my God, like things are falling in place." By the way, I'm making like no money as a manager. You make like $500 a week, but I was ecstatic. I was like, man, like this is a cool, different career. Like I grew up doing construction my whole life. I didn't really know what this city life was about. So I got into it, and I don't know, it just went really well. I ended up managing the W Hotel and the nightclub in there for 3 years. This W Hotel was partnered with the Premier League soccer teams and the Giants and the Jets. So any teams that would come in to this place, all the players would come upstairs. So I'd get to host all these athletes, where I met a lot of these, you know, people that I'm friends with now today, and we just have a good time. And, you know, slowly my career started to take off a little bit in the nightlife scene, and I started getting, you know, opportunities for, you know, bigger opportunities, started taking them, failed in a couple, you know, went through that whole thing. And I was at a point where I was about 24 years old and I was on unemployment, and I was like, I got screwed out of a restaurant. I was kind of just in a stuck point. I had a really bad taste in my mouth from the restaurant industry and nightclub industry. And it's not that I necessarily did anything wrong. I think it's the people I was surrounding myself with, not Darren. Darren's a great guy, but like some of the other people I was around, it was a weird spot. So I was like, I'm not going back to the restaurant and nightclub. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I remember sitting down with this one guy outside a gym. I just got done working out, and I always kept health and wellness pretty much at the top of my priority. It was a no-brainer for me. I grew up in a health and wellness, very oriented household. And I remember I was outside and sitting down with this guy, and I was kind of just spilling my beans, like, this is kind of what I'm going through. And he's like, "Man, why don't you train people?" And I was like, how can I make a career out of training people? It doesn't even make sense. And he kind of explained it to me, and again, coincidentally, you know, God spoke to me, and he was just like, someone from the restaurant hit me up. This guy, Bobby, he hit me up and he said, "Hey man, I'm going through a divorce. I'm a little overweight. I need some help. I know you work out. Can you help me out? Can you come and meet with me like 3, 4, 5 times a week?" I'm like, "Sure." So I went and met with him, and he was my first client. I started training him. And then the next person in his building, I started training him. And the building manager came up to me and they said, "Hey, do you have your certification? You have to have your certification to train in here." And I was like, what the fuck? What is a certification? And so I remember going online, and it's a walking distance from my apartment at the time. And I searched online, and I said certification online, and I found one for $30. I went through it. I'm not kidding. The certification said, you know, like, what muscles do you use if you do a curl? And I said biceps. And I got the certification, and I brought it back to the building manager the next day, and I was like, "Here's my certification." They said, "You're good to go." I was like, I'm fucking free. I'm about to train everyone in New York City. I'm gonna be the best trainer in New York City. Everyone's gonna know me for training. And so that's what I did for the next couple of years. And quickly, as a career that I was like, I don't know if I can make this career. I soon made 7 figures training people, some of the biggest billionaires, celebrities, entrepreneurs, highly successful individuals. They just wanted to train with me. And it was because, to be honest, I was torturing them. They love being tortured. They love just going through hard shit. And I was like, this is so interesting how these people in New York City are so high strung, and they are always, they're leaders in their own space, and they're constantly being told yes, yes, yes. But I'm telling them, fuck no, you're doing this. You're going to bear crawl. You're going to go on the assault bike. You're going to run 5 miles. You're going to do X, Y, Z. And it was like, I was now their authority. And I was like, this is so interesting how this world works, you know, and like how people get caught up in this rat race of the world, and like they go, but then they really do need someone to tell them what the fuck to do every day.
Definitely.
And that's kind of where my niche was. And so then I started building out this training company and this meal prep company, and ended up, getting rid of it in a great way, and made a little cash, and I don't know, started in my next venture. But it was just really interesting on none of these things I went to college for. None of these things was I planning on doing, but I was passionate about each one of them at the time. And I think that's what kind of pushed me through each thing. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, money's always going to come. It's more about like how freaking passionate you are and how much love you have for that specific item at a certain time. And that's kind of what I've learned till now. It's like, you can make money doing anything you want in the world, man. It's just like, you have to love it though, and I don't know, I guess now we're here, and we're doing some pretty fun stuff with all of our brands, and growing and doing a lot of philanthropy work. And but I don't know, that I like telling that story because it's a good base of kind of where I started from.
Definitely.
20, really 18 years old from military academy until I was about 25. And that was some big growth phases of my life, just trying to figure it out and putting pieces together. And what I've also noticed and learned from all these people I've been able to hang out with is all of them have very similar stories, in the sense that they're not the fucking same. No one has a cookie cutter. No one just went to Harvard and started this and then that went perfectly. Like, everyone has put together their own story in their own unique way. And that's why I do genuinely like getting on podcasts and listening to podcasts, because it is true, man. Everyone has their story, and there's no one that's the same. And so anyone that's listening on this that is young, that's 18 to 25, like, you kind of just have to show up and figure it the fuck out, because every day everyone else is also trying to figure it out, and just put your best foot forward and have some passion with it.
Are there any lessons that you feel like you needed to learn the hard way early on?
I would say if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to hand anything to you. As much as we all wait for, I'm going to get this $500 million check. It's coming. It's never coming. It's like, it's just not coming. So don't wait for it. Like, you need to constantly stack different things up. From a revenue standpoint, everyone should have 10, 20 different streams of revenue for sure. And then from a business standpoint, like, work with people you love. Don't try to fast track everything. I think focus more on just having fun and really loving the people you work with. Because when you start to look back and you get into that rat race that I spoke about before, you're going to look back in 10 years and be like, shit, man, I wish I would have worked with better people, or I wish I had a little bit more fun along the way. And I'm talking to too many very successful people, spiritually, financially, family-wise, that all say, man, I wish I would have slowed down a little bit. I wish I would have, been a little bit more present. And so I know that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm 30 years old, and I want to be a little bit more present. But yeah, I think being more present, if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. And yeah.
Yeah. You've touched on just a number of the incredible brands that you work with. I think that's one of the most striking things when you go to your Instagram for the first time. You're like, this guy's got his hands in so many incredible things. And I think that you're one of the original guys being a fitness influencer. Instead of just like taking cash or a monthly retainer, you were like, hey, can I actually get some shares or some options or like a piece of this thing so I have some long-term incentive to grow? Can you talk a little bit about maybe like some of the initial brands you worked with and how you kind of developed that methodology? Because that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think I have always been really intrigued with marketing in general, and just like how a consumer or psychology. I was always intrigued with like psychology. The psychology class was always my favorite, and just thinking about how someone thinks about a certain thing, whether it's buying a super coffee. Like, why are they buying this super coffee? Is it because of the story behind it? Jimmy, Jake, and Jordan, they dropped out of college. Is it because of the flavor on the front? Is it because of the ingredients? Is it because they saw it in the store? How many times do they have to see this product before they actually buy it? Was it through an ad, a text, an email, through a friend using an influencer. Like, what is that? And that's always intrigued me. So deep diving in on a product and why someone buys it, I think was the first step. And I knew as this influencer that, and like I go in quotes, because like, I don't know, like I never was like, oh, I want to be an influencer. I think I guess things I was doing was influential. And so people were following it. But
well, you were posting your workouts and they were going really viral like a couple of years ago, right?
That's it. Yeah. And I was, these are, by the way, I wish I had footage of like me as a kid, because I was doing this shit my whole life. I mean, I did ballet, I did gymnastics. I was always backflipping off something. I got kicked out of class almost every day in 5th grade because I would do backflips off the science grade desk. You know what I mean? Like those big desks that you have 2 or 3 kids sit at. I would constantly do backflips off them. And so like, I've always been doing this. And I guess now, social media gives you a platform where you can just express yourself and just put what you do every day on it. So long and the short is I started seeing brands reach out and they're like, hey, we want you to hold this up. But I knew, I'm like, me holding this up isn't going to just convert a ton of consumers. It might convert a little bit, but this is only one piece of the puzzle. So in what other ways can we help grow this brand than just posting something? What other value can I add? What if I develop an email list for you? What if I show up at an event for you? What if I actually bring in quite a bit of capital for you from myself, my friends, and we do some syndicates for you? What if, XYZ? And so that's what I started doing. And so I started providing just more value to these brands and just, hey, I'm going to do a post. And I think that's where the whole trend started of me building out the DML group of, hey, I can provide way more value than just being this creator in the space to just create content. I think it's a part of it. I think it's important. It's one touch point of a brand getting awareness out there, but it's not all of it. It's not the end all be all. And so I saw that. I started getting some friends together. We started putting some cash together and we started investing in brands. And that's what the DML group is. And then I started slowly seeing, well, what makes a brand good? What makes it so this brand can eventually sell one day? Is it the people around it? Is it the funds that are behind it? Is it this unique product? Does a Nestle, a Coca-Cola, a Keurig, do they need it? Like, what is going to help an investor now make money on this, right? Because now this is a whole nother formula that you have to worry about. So started deep and dive into that and started networking more and meeting more people in that space that actually sell or buy companies, and started to just bring this whole pie full circle, right? And so now a startup all the way until the end game of selling. And then after selling, is it going public? Where is it going? Is it staying private? Is it a cash cow? What is it? And so started just understanding the formula of a company, specifically in the CPG space. And that's when I started putting the team together. The right lawyers, Ryan Lowen and Giannuzzi. I mean, they're the best lawyers in the space. They sold Body Armor, Essentia, Vitamin Water, Orgain, Vega. I mean, they are the best CPG lawyers in the world. Ryan, I trained him. For 4 years. He stumbled upon me. God put him upon me. I was like, train this guy. And so I trained him 3-4 days a week. I got to know him really well. And so I picked his brain. And I started just surrounding myself with these people and just getting really curious with this space. And that's when we started kind of just looking into these different brands. I think the beauty about what we do at the DML group and the syndicates we put together are the word strategic gets thrown around too much in the world when you need a strategic investor. The strategic we bring in are people that have actually sold these companies. They're people that can actually put placement into, Whole Foods, a Walmart, a Target. Like we have that retail distribution. We have the capital if need so. We have the celebrity faces if we need that. You have influencers if you want that. You have the marketing. Like, we put real strategics that are all going to help grow these companies. And so that's why we picked to go into Super Coffee. We think they're the leader in the space for bottled coffee. That's why we went into Olipop. That is the fastest growing beverage in the United States right now. That's why we went into Beam and the CBD sleep formula. That's why Promix is one of our main brands. We think Promix is one of the leading in categories in the healthiest supplements in the world, So we're picking the best products in each category that we want to invest in and help grow and scale. And that's kind of how it came about. I'm short. Go ahead.
It seems like your ability to ask the right questions and connect with the right people is kind of your superpower. Would you say that's pretty fair?
I think it's, and connect. I love connecting people, man.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's part of like your genuine story, like with the training aspect and like the promoting aspect of like actually just like creating these networks of people that are excited about doing something together.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. Like what you're bringing to the space of health and wellness is like how can we get the best people on our team to grow these brands and like create value for them?
Exactly right. Yeah, I think it's really important to have, the right people around you. You know like I said, who's your legal? You know, who's your distributor? Who's putting together your formulations? Who's doing your marketing? And who's authentic with it? You know,
Totally.
The big thing I see within marketing and like brand building, and you know, they're so easy to create a brand right now. Everyone has a phone. It's very easy for me to go online to a hat website and create a custom hat and go sell it. That's a brand. That's easy, right? But it's like, if I'm creating a product and I'm the founder, how is an outsider that comes in, say a marketer, for example, how are they going to relay what the founder is thinking and what his vision is or her vision is or their vision is out until the consumer, and make sure that whole communication stays consistent the whole way, right? Through email, through SMS, through ads, through events, through, word of mouth, through guerrilla marketing. Like, how is that communication staying the same? And so, you have to have the right people in place, whether it's your Amazon partner, whether it's your e-com partner, whether it's your ads partner, whether it's your legal partner. Everyone has to have an open mind and be able to consistently relay what the founder's knowledge is and what their vision is out to their consumer or whoever they're helping.
Yeah. I've actually heard you say before, when you're thinking about working with a brand, if you feel like you can't get a beer with that founder, that's a no for you.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, why is that framework important to you? And then also, are there any other frameworks that you have when you're just looking at potentially working with new brands?
Yeah, for sure. So I, back when I was in the restaurant, we owned a beer garden. And so I got really into just IPAs and beers and craft beers and whatnot. And I'm a beer guy. And so I always just say, I've always had just really good talks with people with beer. And so it's if they drink or don't drink, whatever, but I just use that analogy because if I can't sit down with you like this and just have a real raw conversation and it's awkward or there's like too much small talk or like we don't understand the same visions on philanthropy or kind of where this vision's going with the brand, then we're probably both just going to be wasting our time and just be butting the heads the whole time. But if we can have a solid beer and that 15-minute combo is then turned into a 2-hour, I know that that's probably a right partner for me. And so that's why I just say, you got to have a beer with them.
Yeah.
You've brought up philanthropy a few times, so tongue twister. Where does that stem from?
Definitely from the bear crawl, for sure. Yeah. And so my dad committed suicide when I was 16. And I wanted to raise awareness for that and just people struggling with mental health. I came, to some understanding of kind of what suicide was and mental health was, maybe like 3-4 years ago when I started training for the bear crawl. And I went through also a pretty changing moment in my life. And so I was like, man, like it's better to help people, man. It's really, everyone can take. It's very easy to take, but it's harder to give, right? And it should be balanced. There's a great book out there called Give and Take by Adam Grant that I think everyone, it's unbelievable. And I think everyone should read it everyone should be a giver, man. I love surrounding myself with givers. That's what you probably saw at the ranch. Everyone's a 100%. Giver, man. Everyone should give. Givers always end up on top. I'd rather go into my grave knowing, hey man, that guy helped out. He was a giver. He really changed some people's lives, gave time back, gave money back, etc. Then, that was an awesome billionaire, great entrepreneur. Fuck that. Anyone can do that.
Yeah.
It's how are you actually changing the world? How are you giving back? So the bear crawl was the first big philanthropy thing I did. Bear crawled the New York Marathon, and that was hard.
Wild, dude.
But yeah, it was wild. But we raised really good money and we changed a lot of people's lives. I mean, the amount of messages I got the next day on people that were literally on the brink of suicide, and they were like, dude, you stopped me. Like, you gave me new purpose. And I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, even if I just change one person's life, awesome. When you get hundreds of DMs like that, it was mind blowing. And that was my big eye opening. I need to do more of this. I need to figure, how can I give back more into the world? And so the second one was when I went to Africa to climb Kilimanjaro, which, if anyone's listening, it's a great group hike. It's not hard. Like, anyone can do it. You could walk up it in 3 days. It's very, very simple. But I mean, altitude, it's 19,000 feet, but it's a great country to go to witness, to go out, getting out in the jungle and just explore. But yeah, notice this village out there and they didn't have water and they would walk 12 hours a day to get water. So, hey, let's build them a water tank. They don't have access to capital like a lot of people do in the US. And so raised them some money and built this water village. Now we're working on their actual village, their healthcare center.
Yeah.
And yeah, we do a lot of things in philanthropy. I'm launching a big foundation soon, which I can't talk about it yet, but it's with a family in Qatar, and we're gonna do some really amazing stuff. It's a global charity, so sneak peek on that. But yeah, I love
part two. We'll have you back on for that.
Right? But yeah, I mean, I love philanthropy, man. It helps me sleep better at night. It helps me know that I'm doing my part in the world. I know it helps others, and it just feels good, man. It feels freaking good.
Dude, I hope the listener understands what it probably, I don't think anyone can imagine what it actually feels like to bear crawl a marathon, 26.2 miles, let alone just your hands, your back, that position. So I'm just curious, like, I can only imagine how jacked up your body was, but what was the feeling like just literally exerting yourself so hard at something, but then the next day, like just seeing DMs from people literally saying I was on the verge of committing suicide, but because of this event, it inspired me to push on and keep going. Like, could you even express what that meant to you?
It was, no, I mean, it's kind of hard to express. It was more of just wow. It opened your brain into what's really happening in the world and what people are really going through. You hear this all the time, not enough people talk about it, but they really don't, like a lot of us just keep it bottled up because we get in that rat race and we're just going, and people are going through the same shit. But the more we can talk about it, the more that you can bring awareness to it, the more it'll hopefully give another human that, aha, you know what, I'm going to fucking start talking about it too. And the more that you can just talk, putting your words out into the world, anything, whatever it is, just talking, just getting that, those little voices we all have in our brain, get those out. Like, just talk, find a friend, find a random person, find a person in a coffee shop. Like, just talk your ideas out, talk your expressions out, talk your struggles out. Everyone's mental health would be better. You know what I mean? But if you just talk, too many of us just keep it bottled in, good, bad, ideas, this, that. It's crazy. That's why I fucking talk so much. I haven't stopped talking this whole time. I like talking. It makes me feel better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about the other side of that equation, acting and doing stuff? Because I feel like that also has like kind of that therapeutic effect, and especially if you do it in a group.
Yeah. I think, and I know putting a team together is the best thing I think all of us should do. Everyone in this room right now has their own personal brand. It's your first and last name. That's where you first start off. And if you can start building a team around you, and even if they don't have to be full-time employees, they don't even have to be employees, but if you can start building a great network around you, I hate using the word network, a great soundboard system around you that believes in what you believe in, that you can lean on, that there's a team effect, that's when you can start executing things because you have support that you wouldn't normally have. I've built companies by myself, and I've built companies with people, and it always feels better with people because you have that soundboard effect. And then that's when things actually start getting executed. My partner Albert and I at Promix, we couldn't be more opposite. And he is 100% operations, back end, figuring out the formulations. And I am 100% front end marketing. But we have this push and pull, formulation where he's constantly nagging me and I'm nagging him. But that's how we execute things going forward. And so you need to build these teams around you, whether that's, again, your personal brand, that's your first and last name. You started this personal brand, you love it, great. And you have some people you can soundboard on. That's how you execute things. You get your word out into the world. You start talking about it. People start believing in it, and then you start executing, right? But when everyth's bottled up, you're never going to execute it. You know what I mean? You need a team to execute stuff. And if you don't, and you're a lone wolf, cool. But I do think you'll plateau at some point. It's better to be on top with more people than just yourself.
Totally.
On a mountain or in business.
Yeah. Speaking of team, I mean, the team that you guys have at All Day Running Co., it seems like such a unique, diverse group of people.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really how we got introduced, was that All Day Running event that you guys did on Saturday. And it seems like you're really curating a lot of these incredible positive experiences, building community. Can you tell us a little bit about how you and Jesse and the team built that concept out and why that's so important to you all? Yeah,
I met Jesse a couple of years ago at one of his events, 29029, which he recently sold Jesse's obviously an amazing human. If you guys don't know who Jesse Itzler is, let me give you a quick brief. The guy, unbelievable philanthropist, built a company, sold to Warren Buffett, a jet company, sold a couple companies to Coca-Cola. 50 Cent was his intern. He ran Run DMC for 6 years. The guy has ran 100-milers. He is the ultimate authentic human out there and probably has the biggest network of any human I've ever met. I've met a lot of humans. He has an insane network of humans. And he's just raw. I define success as someone that can be the same person across any platform, talking to any human at any time in time. And that's who he is. He's the same person, whether he's talking to his child, whether he's talking to the president, whether he's talking to me, whether he's talking to the team. And so when I met Jesse, I was like, this guy's authentic. I love this guy, great human. I just want to be friends with him. We started vibing. We both love honey. Fucking started eating honey together. Yeah. We both like doing hard shit, cold plunges on it, started doing that together. That's when he brought me the concept of All Day. And at first it was more apparel, then it was events, then it was this 365 calendar where we would do a workout every day. And then it was just all of it together. And this amazing girl, Amanda, put together the brand. And, you know, she's not even a runner. And so she put together this brand for a running brand. And then Jesse came in, and then we have Todd from Home Depot come in, and like we just have these, I don't even want to say weird. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's a weird group of like, just, it's a circus. It's really just a circus of humans that are all from different backgrounds that put together this all day running community and team. And what's unique about it is the whole point is for us to just have a fun running community, the funnest running community in the world. And the common denominator with all these people they are fun. They just like to have a good time. And so that's why I say circus. It's fun. And so we just want to constantly have fun events, be at fun activations. It's not a this or that conversation. It's a this and that. We don't want to compete with Nike or Under Armour or Adidas or, you know, Iron Man or whatever. We're just here to collaborate and have a good time and live life. And I think that's what All Day is. You know, I know every person that's a part of this has this open-minded mentality to just do more with more people. There's too many brands that start and say, well, this brand's not doing it right, so we're going to do this. We're not saying that. We're just saying, hey, we're here to have fun. Whoever wants to join in. You know, we're just here to have a good time. And I think with that mentality, it makes this startup process with All Day Running that much more fun and that much more easygoing and less stressful because we're not competing. We're just here to have fun. Yeah. And that's, I think, why it's gained the recognition that it has in just 2 months that we've been around. You know,
this is wild.
You guys have only been around for 2 months.
It's longer than that.
That's wild. It feels like it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But what I love about what you guys are doing is like, you know, after COVID, everyone was pretty isolated, and I feel like people's health took a hit for the worse. And this is like one of these events where people are coming together around health and trying to inspire each other and do, you know, live an active life and, you know, go and be more ambitious and find your groove when it comes to like getting healthier. And I think there's a lot of power to that. And I think the timing of it being something that's happened after COVID is really inspiring. Like it's something that needs to be more prevalent. Like, you know, people getting healthier together. Like it's such an awesome feeling.
Man, I'll tell you one thing. I was telling my friend the other day, my grandfather, my dad's dad, he was a professional weightlifter, right? Bodybuilder, like way back, you know, he was a war veteran, like most were. And when I started working out when I was young, I was young. I was doing chin-ups when I was like 5, 6, right? And I remember when I first started working out, like seriously, maybe like 14, my grandfather called me and he was like, Dev, always make sure that you work out with a partner. Always. He's like, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And that always stuck in my head. And I'm like, how is this guy that he just turned 90 a couple weeks ago? I was like, how is this guy, like he has so much knowledge in this space. Like, why does he always say that to me? And he constantly said it to me. And now I'm 30 years old and I get it. And I'm like, this is why. Like, you have to have a workout partner. You really should find someone. And if you don't have someone immediately, find a community and go and find it, because it's going to make your health process that much easier, that much more fun. And doing it with other people, again, like I said, being at the top of a mountain by yourself is not fun. You know, being at the top of a business by yourself is not fun. Working out by yourself is not necessarily fun. Like, have someone that you can do it with, and it's going to emphasize. You need someone that can always push and pull you and and you can lean on. It's part of human.
Totally. I mean, iron sharpens iron, right?
That's
That's why this show has been so fun, having a co-host and a great friend.
I can't
to
imagine
do it.
doing this by yourself, right?
No, it's so much more fun.
And we do other shit outside of the show too that like I think forges the bond even more. Like we did 100K in August.
I was telling him a little bit about that. Suffering with someone is so much fun.
It's tough, man. And you guys build this bond that's just, it's next level, right?
Totally. Yeah, I think you had said, hey, I feel like All Day has been around longer for 2 months.
Yeah.
And my theory is that I think because you guys have built this brand that's like just so synonymous to who you, Jesse, Amanda, the team are as people, we probably just assume that it's been around longer than it really has been. Because it's like you both just doing the shit that you want to do anyway through this brand, which is so cool.
Yeah. He said something to me one day that I'll never really forget, but he was like, him and I were on a walk, we were in Atlanta, Jesse, and he was like, Dev, he's like, if I gave you $1 billion right now, he's like, you'd be doing the exact same thing tomorrow. And I was like, you're right. I would still be saunaing and cold plunging and running and having fun and working out and meeting with good people. Like that's just, I like doing that. Like I genuinely, this is going to sound crazy, I genuinely feel like I'm retired right now.
Wow.
Like I don't think I'm going to be doing much different things when I'm 70, 80, maybe on like a bigger scale with more people, but not too much different. Like I love what I do every single day. And I think everyone can get to that point. It's just like, and then bleed that into your business that you're starting, and then that's how you combine work and life. Too many people in the Western culture separate work and life. We're one of the only cultures in the world that do it. You go to Italy right now and you try to go to a restaurant for lunch. They're not open. They're just not open. Everyone's going back to their family to have lunch. Right? They're like, people separate to go back to their family. They're combining work and life into one thing because work and life is still life. It's not like we're stopping, like, oh, we're going to stop. And we're still life. It's still living. Right? And so how can you live life for a living, I think? And how do you do that? Well, you start by taking back your time in the day and doing what you love and then saturating that into your business and your ethics, and what you believe in. And I know that's what I try to do at the DML Group, Creator & Co, Promix, every brand that we're a part of, All Day Running. It's just who we are. This is what we're doing on a daily basis anyway. So it doesn't feel like work. It's just you're living life for a living.
I feel like the pushback on that would be like, oh, but what about like the risk, of like kind of taking back your time and like maybe not having a job for a little bit and focusing on trying to create that alignment. How do you think about that? And maybe like, because your journey has been, a long, windy road. So maybe put yourself back in your shoes back then.
Yeah.
Like, how did you think about risk?
Yeah, I would say, how much do you value time over money? And I think they're not comparable even to the slightest, because as we're talking right now, seconds are going by, minutes are going by.
Really?
Time is the most valuable thing we have, and it's not guaranteed ever. Money is. Anyone, you can make money whenever. You can make money if you're training people. You can make money if you go sell coffee, if you work at McDonald's, if you do whatever. But like time, you cannot get back. So I think the question that to ask anyone that's listening is like, how much do you actually value your time is the biggest question. And then that'll answer a lot of questions. That's a serious conversation you have to have with yourself. And if you don't value time that much and you value money more, then yes, of course, you're going to probably be a little bit more miserable than you normally would. But if you're like, I love my time, I value my health, what are your values? Like, what are your no matter fucking what's in life? My no matter what's, my family and friends, my spiritual growth, my financial growth, right? Like those are my no matter what's. Like I always want to have those, right? What are your no matter what's in life? My health, no matter what. I always base my decisions on my values. Business decisions, life decisions, friend decisions, always go back to that. If someone's not adding value, then they're taking value from me. And so it just goes back to, what are your values in life? Time is a big, big value for me. If it's taking too much of my time and it's not hitting on one of those values, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I know Jesse, you and Jesse, that's a commonality that you both have, is you're super intentional about your time. And I've actually heard you say before that one of your frameworks when you're making decisions is you think about maybe like an 85-year-old version of yourself at a retirement community and basically being like, hey, when I'm 85, am I going to regret not doing this thing? And that kind of helps you determine if you're going to pull the trigger on something,
all
right?
All the time, man. whether it's simply going to a game or a concert or an event or even this podcast, like, will I regret this when I'm older? Yeah, I probably would have regretted this. Shit, man, I wish I would have gone on this podcast. You know, like you kind of just start showing up if you feel like there's ever going to be a regret. And it starts not necessarily when it's 85, but at night. And so if you can start just going day by day, and you can go to sleep and be like, what did I regret today? And you can start getting to the point of, I didn't regret anything today. I loved everything I did today. I wanted to do everything I wanted. Great. And day by day, now when you're 85, you're like, damn, I just had tens of thousands of days where I didn't regret anything. That was awesome. You know what I mean? That's a good life. And so that's how I think about regret and whatnot.
Do you think that's a shared trait among successful people? Kind of just like thinking about regret as this thing that's you're just trying to avoid, or like trying to like steer your life away from?
I think it's how those people define their success, right? You know, is it money? Is it time? Is it family? Is it spiritual? You know, monks are so different, right? Monks are like, they're successful in their own way, right? And so it's like, I think the common trait, one, you have to figure out what your success is. You can define it in a million different ways, but yeah, I mean, it's what makes you happy, right? At that certain moment in time. And as long as you're happy, the other thing, like none of us ever talk about is how we went to elementary school for 4 years. We went to middle school for 4 years. We went to high school for 4 years. Then we went to college for 4 years. That's, what is that? 16 years, right? Of 4-year increments, right? And then we're expected to go and do a job for 40 years. How that doesn't even make sense. How is my brain triggered if I was just constantly taught every 4 years to switch up, and then go do something for 40 years and then supposed to retire? That doesn't make sense. So we're naturally supposed to be expanding out. We're naturally supposed to be switching up. We're supposed to constantly be redefining what our values are, redefining what life is every couple of years. That's what it's supposed to be. So like, be a little bit more curious, be a little bit more out there. Like, don't be so stuck to having this one job. Like, go take some risks. Like, we're supposed to, we're literally, by society, we're being taught to do that. Right. And so I don't know. I just think it goes deeper than that, which it'll take another hour to get into, but, but you know what I mean? Like, we're supposed to be changing. We're supposed to be growing. You know, we're not supposed to be stagnant. And too many of us get stagnant at these individual jobs. And don't expand out. Like I said at the very beginning of the podcast, everyone should have 10, 20, 30 different streams of revenue. Yes. And they should be taking risks. And that's not only just from a revenue standpoint, but just from a mental health. If I have 30 streams of revenue and one fails, I have 29 more. I am not fucking losing sleep over it. You know what I mean? But if you have one and you lose one, you're fucked.
100%.
That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so how are you de-stressing your life? How are you thinking about your whole life? How are you thinking about regret? How are you just thinking about the overall picture is, I think, a bigger question that everyone should just have an honest conversation with themselves.
I have a 2-part question for you. The first is, it's simple. Do you deal with imposter syndrome, and do you have any advice for people that deal with imposter syndrome? And the reason why I ask that is that
explain imposter syndrome a little bit.
Almost like you have this, like you've achieved success, but maybe there's this internal state of like, oh, do I actually deserve this?
Yeah.
I think that's like probably a block for a lot of people. And the reason why I'm asking that is you're someone you've had such incredible success at a young age. You know, you're partnering with people like Jesse, you're invested in all these incredible brands, building brands. And I'm just wondering if there's ever a part of you that's like, shit, I still just kind of view myself as this kid from New Hampshire.
All the time.
Yeah.
Every day. I like, even just being on this podcast, I'm like, why the fuck do they want to talk to me right now? All the time. I didn't even know it. That 100%, it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly thinking, like, some of the messages or emails or calls I get, I'm like, why does Odell Beckham want to be my business partner? I'm like, I have no clue, but it always stems back. And when I deep dive into these questions, energy, you know, everyone is attracted to energy, negative or positive. I like putting positive energy out there. If I'm putting negative energy, I think you guys would see my circle become a lot different. Right. And so I think when I do think of this imposter syndrome, of, do I deserve this? Am I supposed to be here? It definitely makes me work harder, think deeper into conversations, think deeper into decisions. I definitely tippy-toe around a little bit more because I'm like, oh man, I really don't want to mess this up. This is a really cool opportunity. but then I always stem back to energy. I always like, well, I think I've been pretty positive about it. I think I gave back enough. I think I'm doing the right thing. I as long as I can go to sleep at night, that kind of brings me full circle. But imposter syndrome, I mean, I guess that's a real thing. I definitely, I mean, dead ass, even on this podcast, I'm like, there's a pretty cool production. I don't know what the freak I'm doing here, but hey, what's going on? I'll just rip it.
Yeah.
How do you think about legacy and sort of like what sort of mark you want to leave on the world?
I think there's 3 ways that a human dies. I think the first one, and people might have heard this, first one is when you're dead, like you're dead. Okay, that person just died, unfortunately. The second is when they get buried in the ground. And the third is when your name is last spoken on earth. And so I think legacy is how long can you be alive for, you know, before you're really dead. There's the third way, right? Are you bear crawling a marathon? Are you setting a record? Are you building a village? Are you, you know, doing something that's going to leave a mark on society in like a really positive manner? What are you going to do where your name never gets forgotten in a positive way, right? I would also say legacy, family is important. I would love for, you know, my generations and, you know, kids I hopefully have in the future, you know, them to have, they can look back and be like, oh, my grandfather, my great grandfather, this, that. Like, I definitely think about that. But more importantly, like, what am I doing now to set a good standard for them to be like, wow, he was a philanthropist, or, you know, he helped give back here. Like, I want to keep this foundation going, or I want to continue to build this village out in Africa, or I want to keep going there. So like, I think setting the right standards with legacy, not necessarily just money. Everyone's talking about money. It's not that. It's more just like how can you keep that going? And how can you give your family and your community and a solid base, you know, of the right things to do.
Definitely.
Love that answer.
Yeah, it's an amazing answer. It's probably a great point to probably end the conversation. Dude, we're just going to confirm that you're definitely leaving your mark, man. We've admired you for some time now. So it's special for us to be able to actually have you in the studio and get to talk to you and learn more about your story and just ask you the questions that we've wanted to know the answer to.
Cool.
And just appreciate everything you're doing, man.
Appreciate you guys, man. You guys are some positive dudes, great facial hair and good smiles.
Need the facial hair.
Facial hair. You guys are great. Always welcome at the ranch, the farm, all day running, every brand we have. Going to send you guys a bunch of care packages, and appreciate you guys, man. You guys are doing some epic stuff as well. I know you guys have some awesome guests, and imposter syndrome's kicking in. I don't know why you had me on, but I appreciate it. And anything I can ever do to help you guys, please let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you.
Love.